have a majority of council people in the room? Yeah. Do we need to do anything about that or no? Okay. Do we have anything for her to take notes on, or? Sweet, awesome.
I think I did such a bad job.
No, it was great.
It's probably my turn.
No.
Y'all ready?
I'm ready.
All right, Brian's going to join us. He's having babysitting issues, but he's going to get here when he can. So we'll call the meeting of the Planning and Zoning Commission of the City of Rollingwood to order here at 7:15. We'll do a roll call real quick. If you want to start.
Amy Rodnick?
Alex Robinette.
Tony Stein?
And Jordan Scott. All right, guys. Does everybody have their agendas on them? We'll start then with any public comments for items that are not on the agenda. Do we have anything? Anybody write their names down? Does anybody from the audience wish to talk about something not on the agenda? Okay. Hearing none, we will move on then to our consent agenda. We can enact these 2 minutes with one motion, although I do have a change to it. So why don't we take them minute by minute, if you guys don't mind. So do I hear a motion to approve the August 7th? I do have one thing on it. It's just Mr. Hunter Jones, not Mr. and Mr. Hunter Jones. It was sort of written strange. It's Mr. Hunter and Mr. Jones for a curb cut. That's one person. So if we make that change, I propose we accept the minutes with that one small change. Any seconds?
Second?
Okay, Tony.
Oh, well, it does say, actually says, oh, maybe his real name is John Hunter Jones. Is that what it is in the number 4 above?
It's just Hunter Jones. I mean,
Well, in number 4, it says John Hunter and Teresa Jones, owners, too. I don't know if that's his name.
does it?
I think it might be John Hunter Jones.
Yeah, maybe you're right. I don't know.
Check. Make sure that it's
We'll get them.
It's very important.
Yeah, it's not a big deal, but I could, yeah, just to make sure. Okay. We got a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Any further changes? All right, all in favor of passing the August 7 minutes, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed say nay. All right, hearing none, the motion passes unanimously. Looking then at the September 4th minutes, is there a motion to accept them?
City's phone number.
I make a motion to accept the minutes.
Okay, is there a
September
second?
4th.
I'll second.
All right, thank you, Alex, for moving and Tony for seconding. Any discussion?
This is for the 4th?
This is for, yeah, September 4th.
Okay, I'll have to abstain, 'cause I was not here.
Yes,
Okay.
lowercase Rollingwood.
I don't know if you can abstain.
Well, you haven't called for a vote
We
yet.
can call for a
Don't
vote
I
and
have to
abstain, yeah.
abstain if I wasn't present?
You can vote even though you weren't present.
Oh, really?
Yeah. All right, all in favor signify by saying aye.
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 I'll abstain.
Okay, any opposed? And note we have one abstention. Okay. All right, thank you guys. Minutes are passed. We will move into a public hearing then on item number 4 at, what is that, about 7:18? Sorry, item number 3. And this is a public hearing regarding the number of members to the Board of Adjustment for the Planning and Zoning, or for the Board of Adjustment. Charlie, you want to give us the quick lowdown on what we're trying to do?
Yes, our current ordinance is inconsistent with state law with respect to the number of Board of Adjustment members required to hear a hearing. So we're just amending our code of ordinances to be consistent with state law.
How is it inconsistent?
Our code seems to imply that it requires 5 people to hear a zoning Board of Adjustment issue. The state law only requires 4.
Requires that 75%. which is 4.
Yes.
Okay. Did we get the printouts?
I
Yeah.
can grab them for you.
Just for context, I asked Amber to hand you guys the entire section of that. We're looking at amending section C of 14.02.801. But we've got the whole section there for you guys to read. Basically, we appoint members and alternates to the Board of Adjustment. And then our code specifically calls for 5 members, but it's supposed to be 75% of the people there.
To clarify,
That's
the
it, yeah.
Planning and Zoning Commission doesn't appoint members.
Correct.
To City Council.
The City Council appoints them. So you guys have got the whole section there for your review. So it's 75% of the 5 members. So the one question I have on our proposed language, I'm assuming it is, but I just don't want to be the person who didn't say something, and I'm not an attorney, but when it says 75, the proposed language says, board will always be heard by 75% of the members, regular or alternate. That's keeping some of the language that was in there where it says will be heard by 5 regular or alternate members. Do we have an issue of making it 75% of the total, like of regular and alternate, just through that language? I know I'm nitpicking here, but I didn't want someone else to be like, who passed this thing?
Well, the
Yeah.
original language says and or, and the new language says regular or alternate.
Okay. I'm good as long as this language is good.
I'm good.
Okay. All right. Then I am, any other questions? Okay, is there a motion to pass? Or is there a motion?
This language is the new language or the old language?
The language you have, sorry, this is the old language.
This is the old language.
The new language is in your agenda, in your packet. Sorry, it's in the packet, not the agenda. And it would be page 10.
Where's the packet?
You know what, it's online.
Okay, I was supposed to
We
print
can
it.
share.
Okay.
There's a link to it, and we'll go over the new packets at the end.
Okay.
And yeah,
This
it's
is
a
the
new
last page.
process. I loved it, but even I got a little mixed up,
Okay.
and Amber set me straight. So we'll talk to that here at the end. But basically, we're changing the part that says you will have 5 members, will always be heard by 5 regular or alternate members, to say you'll be heard by 75% of the members, regular or, and those could be regular or alternate.
And
The
and
number's 3.75.
I wonder if I printed this
but it's-
early. I don't see anything about this in my packet today.
This issue arose out of, there were 4 Board of Adjustment members, I believe in August, available to hear a case. And I went to state statute and, oh, we're great to go. And then someone alerted me to a provision in our code where it said had to be heard by 5. So we were unable to have quorum and unable to hear the case. And every time Board of Adjustment is able to hear a case, we have to renotice. And it's a tremendous amount of work, and also it's a delay to the property owner. So this would help move things along.
It sets quorum at 4, basically, instead of 5, which I'm fine with.
And this is the Board of Adjustment that Braden's on, or at least used to be
Yeah.
on. Is that, okay.
And it's page 10 in your packet if you've got that. The interesting bit, guys, there's
For some
2
reason it's
sections
not
in
in
the
mine.
packet. It says 10 and then 4. Did we close public hearing? We didn't, did
No,
we?
not yet.
All right. Well, let me close public hearing real quick before we take a vote. Sorry. And we're going to close public hearing then at 7:24. All right. Is there a motion from the dais?
I'll move that we accept the proposed change.
Okay. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Tony seconds. Thank you.
Not sure why it's 75.
Any further discussion about amending this ordinance?
I'm just laughing at the 75%. It
Yeah.
seems like it might want to be 80 if you want, or.
Spread out of the statute.
Yeah, yeah.
We
This
blame the
might
Texas-
require a piece of the human, but
We can blame the Texas legislature. Everybody else good?
All right, we got a motion on the table, no further discussion, all in favor signify by saying aye.
aye.
Aye. All opposed, say nay. All right, motion passes. All right, we are going to open up public hearing, item number 5, a discussion to amend the city's code of ordinances to expressly include allowing for veterinary services with the without the inclusion of overnight kenneling in the current C1 zoning district within the city of Rollingwood. Is there anyone from the public who would like to speak on this matter? Great. Just please state your name for the record.
Hi, good evening. My name is Joshua Brunsman. I'm a local resident here in Austin, Texas. I focus on site selection for Paz Veterinary Services. I'm very excited to be here this evening, and thank you for your time. I've been working with Paz for about the last 9 months, trying to find specific locations here in Austin and also Rollingwood. We finally found a location that we felt is very suitable for the services here in Austin, here in Rollingwood, and that's what we're here for this evening. We have a couple slides and everything we sent over that I might, this is my first time here. I don't know if we could pop that up. But Paz Veterinarian Clinic and some of their staff are here as well to speak on that tonight. But yeah, just wanted to come up and introduce ourselves and our proposal for the change.
It's like the world's biggest iPad.
It is.
Remember, it's in the packet?
I think you're in the council meeting. Yeah, close, yeah, there you go.
Just trying to find the slides.
I don't think it's in the packet.
Okay. Do you just want to walk us through your website or?
Yeah, if you don't mind just clicking on that'd be fantastic. Let's see if we could just go to the home page. I think.
You want to give them a mouse or this, so we can navigate through?
I think I'd let Paz speak for it. I just wanted to convey, the reason why for our site selection. I feel like it's an advantageous opportunity to bring Rollingwood a veterinary service. The site has a great buffer zone that backs to the residential that's behind it. There's a nice creek, there's brush. Also, it's on the corner. We feel that it's just a good location. It's a 4-way intersection, so we can really mitigate any issues with traffic. But at the same time, I think that would be one of the comments that would pop up is traffic. We're not expanding the location. We're looking to remodel it, keep the same footprint, and then at the same time with that, we're only able to see so many visitors a day as well. So we feel like it would be very similar to the previous dentist that was there in years past. That's kind of what I have at the moment. Is there any questions possibly?
I did not know that veterinary services were not allowed if there was not a boarding facility. What is generally, without me having to look up the ordinances, what is the current state of our ordinances on that?
As far as C1 zoning goes, it is not listed as a permitted use, and so therefore it is not permitted. In C2 zoning, this is C1 zoning. In C2 zoning, it's specifically identified it as a prohibited use. But tonight they
That
are
was C2?
requesting, it's C1, this location is, they are requesting to have veterinary services without overnight kenneling expressly permitted. I did ask them if they would be willing to, if the commission so chose, would they be willing to consider like a special use permit as part of allowing this, and they said they would be willing to consider that.
We would definitely prefer the zoning change. The reason being is just the timelines. You have a local resident that owns the building also, and we're trying to be mindful of the process and also the build-out time, which averages about 6 months for us once we can go ahead and start with our architectural renderings and submittal, and then get everybody on board with the city of Rollingwood to make sure that the facade and everything is up to par with what the city's expecting for a location like that. If we did get the conditional use, it's going to delay things about another 3 months. So we would request that we would be able to get the zoning to accommodate the veterinary services without kenneling. No surgeries will take anything into the night. Pets won't be staying overnight as well, so there's not going to be any concern of kenneling any of those sorts also.
Kind of on the end of Amy's question, what were the reasons why it was prohibited before? Do
I
you-
couldn't speak to that. It was adopted in 1987 and
Mhm.
1987.
yes.
I guess
I was born.
I was on the council then, but I don't remember. I don't remember that one.
Well, much of the code was, I think, adopted at that time, and so there may not have been any discussion regarding that.
It was an ordeal.
Yeah, and we have a really strong foothold with the city of Austin also. They're their preferred veterinarian services for all their city staff and employees, so we offer some services for them that a lot of other veterinarian clinics don't. We work with Austin Pets Alive. We are their go-to for servicing as well for them and being part of them. Nicholas also is a big sponsor in the athletic programs within the respected neighborhoods that we offer our services. So we have a few locations. We have a great service over on, oh, thank you for that. We have a fantastic location over on South First that was a ground up build. It turned out fantastic. We have some really great architectural designs that go with that. The next one took off on Cesar Chavez. That is currently there. And then there's another one that just opened up off of North Burnett in a shopping center. So we're really big on community feel. And that's kind of everything it is. And everything that we do is organic. And that's kind of why we want to bring this to the city of Rollingwood. Some of your residents is already our clients there. So we'd like to be able to bring it a little bit closer and kind of complement this side of town and also cater to everybody over here also. I think that's kind of it for what I have. If there's any questions, I'm more than happy to answer them.
Any questions?
So what are your normal business hours?
Normal business hours for us, for our two
Sir.
sources.
Yeah,
Sir,
sorry.
would you please step up to the
Yeah,
state
introduce
your
yourself.
name?
Normal operating hours for our south location and our east Cesar Chavez location are 8 to 8, Monday through Friday, and 8 to 12 on Saturdays. The Burnett location, which is closer to just across the street from Taurus Dog Training up on Burnett Road, that one is open 8 to 6, Monday through Friday, and closed on the weekend.
Do you mind stating your name for the record, please?
My name is Troy Buckland. I work at Paws Veterinary. I'm the executive director there.
Okay.
I'd
Was
just
your
like to-
father Tom Buckland by any chance?
No, unfortunately
We
no.
bought our first house from him. He was veterinarian.
Well, there are a few of Bucklands around.
Yeah, there are. So what would the proposed hours at this particular location be, or do you not know yet?
We more than likely, with a newer clinic based on how we're coming into the neighborhood, we want to make sure and attenuate initially to figure out what the flow will be for our clientele. So more than likely, we'll probably come in at around 8 to 6, Monday through Friday, and then go from there to see what is needed by the public who wants to visit our clinic here in Rollingwood.
I just want to make a comment that I actually appreciate what you're trying to do when you talk about building community and making a place that is an amenity to residents, because I think that area has a lot of potential to, and I hope that something like this can draw in some additional amenities that are good for neighbors to walk to, and so I like
And I agree completely. We do offer the support to our community in the area, and we do hold functions. We do go and spend time with local businesses in the direct area of that clinic and get onboarded with events that they might want to participate in that could facilitate our help as well and exposure.
Thank you.
So, thanks.
Do y'all do any kenneling during the day?
Only-
Doggy daycare?
No doggy daycare. The only every veterinary clinic across the United States probably has kennels, which are cages inside the hospital, to house hospitalized patients that are there for the day, either for surgeries or for treatments. And then when the clinic closes, for us, we do not believe that there is a place for boarding or kenneling overnight in a medical facility. We believe that should be a standalone business, and definitely probably not within a neighborhood environment. I could defer to your 1987 statement. A lot of the problems with veterinary clinics that they were having were the kenneling overnight and the dogs barking at night outside in the kennels that they had outside, and that would disturb the neighborhood.
Yeah, if I had, past tense, any reservations, it was we happened to go to a vet that's kind of a similar situation off of 360, but they do doggy daycare, and there's a ton of traffic. Sorry, it's actually off BK, it's past 360, but just a ton of traffic there in the morning. I had cause to go in with my dog a couple mornings in a row, and it was just like, holy moly, they didn't even have a drive-through going.
Right.
So my understanding I hear, the commitment is, we're not looking for that type of.
Exactly.
It is truly a vet.
It is a veterinary medical practice, and that is what we do there, and that's all we'll do.
Help me understand the 3 months, the extra 3 months required if we utilize a permit instead of changing our entire.
It's just the timing associated with having to go through that process from the regulatory standpoint.
Okay, so that's a regulatory issue.
They'd have to go back before P and Z to have their special use permit considered.
We
It'd have to be
publish
published, and then it would have to go to the city council. Y'all would be able to make conditions on that permit, and then it would go to council for approval.
Right.
And all of that would be published, and public hearings would be held.
What kind of public notice was given for this? Is it just our agenda here, or has this been out?
No, it was sent.
Public hearing, so.
It was sent to, yes, every resident, anytime there's a possibility of a zoning change according to the city's code of ordinances, we have to mail to every resident in the city limits, so.
Did we get any comments, or written or otherwise, from residents?
You want me to speak on that? Hi, I'm Carrie Kaler. I'm the Development Services Manager for the City of Rollingwood. I had about 5 phone calls, 2 residents, 3 businesses asking about the notices that they got. The concerns that they expressed was just whether or not there was going to be kenneling. Once I explained that what was on the agenda was without kenneling as one of the permitted uses, the feedback that I got was support. I haven't gotten any written or verbal complaints about it. So.
Thanks.
There's one email. Amy Patillo, 3 Rockaway Cove. There is one email that I received. It looks like all the council members received it. And it was sent on behalf of Ronald Hudson, who said, I'm not able to attend the public hearing for veterinary services. The request seems innocuous, but you can be sure that cracking the door open will open the overnight vet's kenneling will follow. Sorry, the language is a little funny. When a sick dog needs to stay. Who is going to police the change 3 months from now, etc. Rules are rules, and if we bend too far, they break and become worthless. Please deny this variance. And I believe that's the only comment I've received.
I could speak to that. I'm allowed to.
Sure. We're just going to welcome Commissioner Nash to the dais. Thank you. Appreciate you making it.
Yeah, thanks.
We're still in the public hearing section of item 5.
Somebody.
Okay, yeah, please.
I don't have to say my name again, do I?
Say it again, just so we know who's talking.
Hi, I'm Troy Buckland from Paz Veterinary, Executive Administrator there. I wanted to speak to that email. Majority of all veterinary clinics, including ourselves, will refer patients in critical care or who need hospitalization overnight to the local specialty and emergency clinics around town, like Central Texas, Austin Veterinary Emergency Specialist up on 360 and 2222, which is our preferred go-to. If you leave an animal that needs care overnight without attendance, it doesn't make sense. So they have to go to a specialty care facility when they come to pause. If they need overnight care, they go to a specialty 24/7 clinic. And if they need the stability to stay at that clinic, then they are welcome to. They don't have to come back to our clinic during the next day. Does that answer?
So it's basically outpatient surgery? I mean, there's no
outpatient.
scenarios where they're spending the night?
No.
Thank you. Yeah. Any further questions for our group that's here in the public hearing? Any further comments from the public? All right, we'll go ahead and close the public hearing for item 5 at 7:41. And we'll go ahead and start discussion on possible action. Any thoughts?
Do we have proposed language if we were to?
We don't.
No.
So the motion would just be phrased that, we would include in C1 zoning, allowing for veterinary services without overnight kennelling.
Yes, ma'am. A motion to recommend approval of that zoning change to the code.
Would it be appropriate to include no outdoor kenneling?
Well, they can't kennel, they can't kennel outdoors. So just the straight no kenneling would be sufficient.
Okay, so when we talk about kenneling, we're not talking about the cages that sick animals are put in during the day.
Correct.
That's not kenneling.
No,
Okay.
I use the definition of kenneling and, is overnight stays, as I understand it in the common.
Will you guys have dogs outside?
Not unless we're walking them on a leash.
Okay.
To do whatever they need to do outside.
Will you have a specific
We'll have
space for them to
specific
go
space for that.
on property?
Yeah.
No issues about that stuff getting into the waterways? You guys are backing up to a creek?
We back up to a creek at our south location as well. And we take our dogs out on peat gravel that is in our back area, and we pick everything up, and we have it, what's the word I'm looking for?
Drain?
Where they have a nice rake where it goes away from the creek areas. And if it were a water situation. But we do pick up after all pets, just because it's a health hazard for
Yep.
both pets and people.
Okay.
Talking about the definition of kenneling again, I guess, I wonder if we need to do anything specific to the day kenneling or whatever you want to call it, to specifically exclude
I'll be
daycare of
honest.
healthy animals, I guess.
I would, if I looked at my decision tree personally on this, I would say, do we want to allow vets, yes or no? Like, are we interested in even opening this up at all? And then how do we want to go about doing it? I spent some time researching PAWS and liked what I saw, liked what I heard tonight. So to be honest, I'm open for them individually. For the whole idea of a whole bunch of vets, and I get that with the market that probably isn't gonna happen, but I have a hesitation to open it up to a ton of vets. I'm more interested in doing this on perhaps, so not opening it up in the zoning code, but doing it as a special use permit to see. I think it's a good first step to see if this works. If they're good partners, we may choose to modify the code in future scenarios. It's regrettable that it takes 90 days. It does give you guys a bit of a competitive advantage in that we're not gonna let any old vet come through. Like, we're not opening the doors. So in sort of a way, it's like if you guys can juggle the 90 days and the fact that you'd be the only vet this side of town, that could be a good thing as well. And the reason I do that is there's something fundamentally with me about changing the code for one person, for one use, for one specific use. It's really hard to envision all the other people that might come through. And so for that first step, I like the idea of a special use permit with the idea of looking at, if this is successful, we can discuss perhaps modifying the code to allow it in all C1. Personally, I would make a recommendation that we pass a special use permit for them, and we put our no outside, no this, no that, and we make that recommendation to council. I know council's probably gonna be more informed about this from we don't have anybody from the public here tonight. We've heard, there's been a few phone calls here and there, but council will have that opportunity also as well to look at it. It gives council a bit more flexibility than from a conditional use permit. How often do those things have to be renewed? I mean, what's the situation
Yeah,
there?
I was gonna ask about that.
Special use permits generally are granted and they run with the land and they run into perpetuity.
So if we,
If they
So it would be with this
certify it-
address?
They run with the land, so,
Yeah.
so even hearing your concerns, if you were to grant, if we were to require them to go, first of all, we don't even have a special use permit process for
No.
veterinary clinics, we have to create that. And then they'd have to go through the process of applying for that special use permit. But even if they did that and you granted a special use permit to PAWS, you don't grant them to a particular business, you grant them to a piece of property.
yeah,
And so, am I saying it right, PAWS or PAS?
Pause.
PAWS. So if you're, makes sense.
there you
Just-
go.
okay.
All right.
I
It
got it.
clicked for me at the
Just
exact
got
same
it.
moment.
So even if you were to grant a special use permit for this particular piece of property, PAWS could leave and another vet could come in at that piece of property because special use permits run with the land, they don't run with the business.
Yeah, but for perpetuity?
Perpetuity.
If they started to violate the conditions that you placed on a special use permit, then there's a process that you could revoke.
Yes, and a special use permit is a zoning change. The only
But-
difference is that generally a special use permit process is that you place it in there because you want to make sure certain things are complied with to ensure that the use you're requiring by a special permit is met. And they are usually, and I request and usually require that they be objective, not subjective. So you're not choosing between competitive advantages for businesses. You're actually just looking at an objective criteria of whether or not a particular use should fit in a particular location based on the criteria you want to place on it. The example I always give is perhaps you want to allow a gas station, but not a gas station with a car wash that is open 24 hours, abutted next to a residential district. And so you require a gas station with a car wash that's going to be open 24 hours to get a special use permit. And you require them to have certain buffering between their residential zones. You require them to have certain hours. And so long as they meet that objective criteria, it doesn't matter which business goes in, they are entitled to the special use permit. You can do the same thing with a rezoning by right, based on what I'm hearing, by just recommending to city council that a veterinary clinic is allowed by right within the C1 zoning district, but prohibit overnight kenneling, prohibit kenneling, and we would define kenneling to be overnight or doggy daycare type issues, and we can draft the language for city council to consider that puts your recommendations into an ordinance form. So you can make those recommendations to city council, and then city council will have an ordinance in front of them, which will have the language that you recommend. Not the specific language, because that'll be drafted after your recommendations, but your criteria recommendations could be included
As part of code,
as part of code, yes.
or as part of a special use permit, but we gotta get a process to get the permit to. Now, is there a process to undo the permit? You referred to it, I mean, we can undo code, and then I'm guessing if anybody was actively in that business, they're grandfathered in.
That is correct.
But as soon as they move or cease business, they're no longer have grandfathering.
Sporting goods.
That's correct.
Okay.
Do we
What
have-
about with special use permits? Is there, if the permit is removed, are they, can you remove it? You say it's perpetuity, I get that it lasts for perpetuity, but can it then be?
It's treated just like, it's treated just like any zoning designation. So if they violate the special use permit, they get cited, they go to municipal court for, they get this, it's the same as any other zoning designation.
So that's for violations, but let's just say Rollingwood becomes anti-pet, which I don't see happening, but for the sake of argument, they become anti-pet and they don't want any vets and they take away the special use. Is that immediate or is it grandfathered
No,
in?
city, it's the same as a zoning designation, and so if the city decides they want to repeal the special use permit, it would have to go through the same zoning process for a repeal of any zoning designation. Public notice, they would get, obviously, notice, the citizens would get notice, and we'd go through the process of repealing the special use permit, but they would be grandfathered. You could not kick them out.
Correct. Okay, so it gives them the same protections as changing the code.
Yes.
All right. So I'll be honest, taking this away from them, not worried about their type. I am worried about doggy daycare. It just from a traffic standpoint, solely. I mean, we could use it, but from a traffic standpoint, I'm already seeing an issue out on a different part of Bee Cave. So opening up C1 to that type. So I guess what we're saying is we have two tools. We can change our zoning and put those restrictions of, all right, veterinary services are allowed with no overnight kenneling and no doggy daycare service. We'll come up with the language.
Actually,
that
we
meets
would,
that, yeah.
actually what we would do is we would define veterinary services in such a way that it excludes those activities as part of the term veterinary
And
services.
small animals only, I would assume.
Like not horses
I don't know what
or
other,
hippos.
just thinking of what other people can come up with.
No sheep.
Yeah.
I have two
Does
massive.
PAWS have limitations on the types of animals service?
Can I speak to that?
Sure.
So veterinary care consists of different categories. As people go through veterinary college, they choose a specialty. There is small animal veterinary medical care. There is equine veterinary medical care, and bovine and feedstock veterinary care. Very rarely do all those combine together. The ones that you do see combined together are small animal and equine, and house call feedstock. And those are usually out in the country for good reason, because they need space. They're big animals. We are definitely a small animal practice.
Okay.
Dogs and cats, and maybe the occasional bunny or pot-bellied pig.
So that's something we could kind of define, small animal veterinary care.
Now, we did have a rogue pot-bellied pig attack the city at one point.
Does is there like a service tax for veterinary services that would end up in the city of Rollingwood coffers?
Sales
Yeah, and I
tax.
saw it looked like merchandise in there. It's been
Sales tax.
pay
So
sales
like-
tax on
like
anything
any
sold.
other business sales tax.
All right, so quantify that for us. What's your, at your
So-
other locations?
so-
average?
so-
We can't be considering sales tax in a zoning context. The only question before you is the use being considered appropriate for the location? Sales tax is not part of
Okay,
it.
sorry, overstepping my bounds there.
I don't know that I would factor traffic into the consideration, just because, I mean, the whole point of a commercial property is for the business to, like, what's the difference between a really hot retail location that's selling wearing apparel shops versus a veterinary service? If it's, I mean, do we really quantify a traffic difference between those two?
I can only go through my experience of where we take our dogs, and I went in for vet services. It was amazing seeing Bee Cave backing up out towards Bee Cave, the city, on a 5-lane highway. It's backing up because people are waiting to get in and turn. It creates a situation for that doggy daycare aspect because they all want to drop off at rush hour. We are this is the last section before you hit Austin.
Yeah, I see.
And the first one on the way out, so you would suddenly create a traffic situation. People trying to get through that place even had a drive-through, and it was still jam-packed out into the street.
I get what you're saying. So
yeah.
like for like the daycare kenneling aspect,
Right.
you're gonna have like,
Drop off.
it's like school.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah,
Got it.
but it's like school drop off, and so
And
I'm
this
trying to
isn't something
avoid
that you guys, I missed that part, but yeah,
They don't do it.
not
No.
part of the thing, okay.
No, they're great. I mean, I watched a couple of their videos. They have like 10, maybe 15 kennels, and they were very clear that, hey, they're here for recovery from surgery, and then we want the pets to go home with their owners, or I guess as you said, I was wondering, well, if it's really bad, they go to a special place to be monitored overnight. So, generally speaking, I've said my concerns. Are there any other concerns for people? Do we want to go forward? Do you want to do code? Do you want to do special use permit?
I mean, looking at the approved zoning uses in this chapter, I mean, and then thinking back to 1987 and knowing how things work in the municipal government, which I've been blessed to be exposed to.
We had just gotten a word processor in 1987.
Yeah. So, I mean, reading all of these, I wouldn't be surprised at all if just nobody even thought of or discussed veterinary services at all,
I
as
don't-
opposed to specifically excluding it.
I don't recall it ever being
Well, it was
discussed.
What's the Wild
specifically
West
excluded.
back then?
Oh, it
So
was?
it's a prohibited use under 1402, 404.7.
It
Well,
is
I
in
stand corrected.
C2 zoning.
What's that?
In C2 zoning, it's expressly prohibited.
Okay.
Right.
Well,
Not
it's a little
in
different.
C1. It's not expressly, it's just not listed, yes.
Which one's the C2? Is that 404, the one that's in the packet? I saw 404 is in the packet as being the prohibited use. So 402 and 403 are permitted uses, and then I guess 1402, 404 is prohibited uses. That's all C1 or C2?
Let me grab it.
It's C1.
No dry cleaning.
Well, no dry cleaning. You can have a dry cleaning storefront, but not the dry cleaning processing.
Plants, right.
So the plants are in the prohibited section, and then the storefront is in the permitted section. I guess that's all C2. So 402, 403, and 404 are all in C2.
That is a little different. I had the impression that it was just not listed as an approved use as opposed to being called out as a
Yeah.
prohibited use.
It's called out as prohibited.
Not in this zoning, not in this
In
zoning.
C2.
Right.
C2.
That's
Not in
all
C1.
to C2, it's specifically called out as a prohibited use, but it's not listed as a permitted use in C1, so therefore it's not allowed.
If you read that bit at the top, it says, if it's not specifically allowed, it's prohibited, including but not limited to these things.
So I'll say in terms of like deciding what to do on the whether it's a special use, I'm not entirely certain still on what that procedure is versus just modifying the code.
Yeah.
If it's, I'm not hearing, like, in my mind, I don't see a problem or an objection with what's being defined here, which is day veterinary services for small animals without overnight kenneling or daycare facilities, right?
Yep.
That to me all sounds like, I don't see why we would have a problem with paws or any other business, because if they're gonna be doing it sort of under those confines or within those limitations, then that's all, seems like it should be acceptable.
Okay.
I think so. I don't think
I
we're
agree.
gonna have a flood of veterinarians wanting to.
Yeah, and
Open
even if
up.
they're weeded up with 2 or 3, I mean, it's not, none of them would be able to have something overnight, and none
It's
of them would be
restricted,
having
yeah.
doggy daycare, which were, this sounds so cute. So I don't know, I'm fine with it as a code change,
Mhm.
personally, assuming we're all
Seems
on board with
cleaner.
this.
Do we need to address what was raised earlier about I think Jordan raised that question about mitigating pollution.
They'll have to comply with all the city's regulations, including our health and sanitation regulations. So the
Okay.
zoning doesn't deal with that. We have other regulations that will deal with that.
I
So
kind of
they're-
assume that there's like
they're
some kind of
sufficient.
veterinary regulations too, but I don't know if that's true. Are
Yeah.
there?
I mean, I agree with you. I don't have a problem amending the zoning ordinance to allow small animals, no doggy daycare. I would maybe question 24-hour emergency, because more
Oh, right.
commercial areas, I think, would be more appropriate for those types of clinics. But if they're proposing 8 to 6, I think that would be fine.
We're what? 7 to 10 for C1? I think
So
it's
there's
10
a
o'clock
time
cutoff
restriction?
time. Yeah, there's a time restriction across all C1 zoning. I think it's the same for, it's been a while since I've read it, but, so they gotta comply with that.
Apply to a bar if we
So
go to a bar.
if they wanna go till 10, they can go till 10.
Yeah, we're gonna have to get.
Under the zoning.
Special use.
Under a special use, you could say, great, you can't go past 8 o'clock. Right? Okay.
I'm a little, I understand what you're saying,
Okay.
Jordan, about the special use, and it makes sense in some ways, but I'm also a little concerned if, you know, somebody else who offered equally nice services showed up and we didn't give them a special use permit, you know, whether we'd be accused of favoring one business over another. It just seems to me more equitable if we amend the code, and like Alex said, I don't think we're gonna get a flood of applicants, you know, wanting to do this.
Competition's good. Good thing. Keeps everybody sharp.
Tony and Alex, you guys got any thoughts?
I don't have any concerns at all about this specific use. You know, the fact that it was specifically called out as a prohibited use would be my only reservation, and I think we only got one, you know, real objection from resident, nor did we get a whole lot of, sounds like, interest or input either way, and more support than opposition. And
Since I
seems fine
missed
to me.
it, what was the objection?
The objection was basically slippery slope, and, you know, we have rules for a reason. You bend the rules, eventually they break, and we let them in, and then in a couple of years, we're gonna have somebody doing overnight kenneling. But, I mean, I think that's pretty, we can be
Yeah.
pretty clear in preventing that
If
from
you
happening.
change that within the zoning, like if you say, you have to change the entire zoning. So walk me through, we say, we allow overnight kenneling for 5 years, and then a bunch of people get upset, they wanna change it back. Does that use have to immediately stop, or is the individual use grandfathered in?
Property where it's being used as grandfather.
Okay, so that particular type of use is grandfathered until that ceases under zoning. Okay.
I mean, I think it's fine. It's basically a doctor's office.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, we've got a lot of those.
Like I
Great.
said,
Can't wait to use it for
you know,
Pikachu.
I'm supportive of it. I mean, we've discussed all the issues relative to code and whatnot, but I think it's a benefit to the city to have an amenity like that and to potentially open up some additional good things along there. So.
Okay. I mean, it sounds like we have consensus on the dais, so is there anybody who'd like to pass a motion? We wanna try and put one together, and then someone,
I mean, I can try to propose something. I would say that we make a recommendation to council with our attorney drafting something more specific that would permit a change to the zoning ordinances to allow for small animal veterinary services, which do not include any form of kenneling or daycare for animals.
Like overnight kenneling
Yeah,
specifically.
well, I think if they can only, under our existing ordinances, be open from 7 to 10, they would probably have considerable liability issues if they left animals, sick or injured animals alone overnight. I would think so. So, I mean, we can include not to be overnight, but I think that's self-explanatory.
okay. Let me make sure I captured it. Can't even read my own handwriting. All right, recommend to council that the city attorney draft zoning language that permits a change to our zoning ordinance that allows for small animal vet services that disallows overnight kenneling and daycare services. Sound right?
In the C1 zoning district.
In the C1 zoning district.
In C1, yeah.
I do have one question, like regarding sound mitigation, like is the building treated in a way that neighbors that are just across the creek could hear unhappy dogs barking or?
We would have to get into the space and structure it in a way to figure out where sound could go out. From my understanding and what I've seen, the construction of the building on the exterior is the native Texas rock all the way around, which is a great sound deferring aspect to the sound moving out from the building, we could work to keep it attenuated and making sure that that was averted by whatever sound dampeners you can purchase especially for veterinary care facilities.
So you are where the dentist office is at the intersection of Edge Grove and Bee Caves?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and so then you have the creek behind you, and then I think some, shrubs and barriers, and then a street, and then houses beyond that.
Pretty good buffer.
And that's the reason for that site selection, is we want to be mindful of our neighbors as well. Though the creek was advantageous in regards to the sound mitigation, and also at the same time, we don't want to neighbors that live in and have parking dogs or anything for the time being if they're at this facility, but also no kenneling or anything along those lines. And that's why we wanted to address that with the C1 while we submitted the application, just to keep that up front, is that is not a request, nor is that something that we're intending on having on site at any time.
Yeah, I think as long as the neighbors can't hear barking dogs.
Is the parking consistent with other locations?
Yep, it is very consistent with other locations. It's an in and out process with 30-minute appointments through the day, which is much less usually than a dental office appointment span, depending on what you need done. But it's usually a quick turnaround with clientele, and so we haven't had any problems with it with other locations.
How many doctors are there at any given time?
It depends on the amount of business that is being procured in the area. More than likely, we will be starting out with 2 doctors that switch days back and forth, so there'll be 1 doctor on the premise.
Requirements are per
support
C1,
staff,
right?
usually
Do we have parking?
Yes, I was gonna
reception
mention
or
something.
2,
As soon as he's
or
done speaking.
and 2 technicians if it was 1 doctor. We usually average about 1.5 support staff, 1.5 to 2 support staff per doctor in a location. So, yeah, I don't think that there'll be too much of a problem with lack of parking or over parking or anything of that nature.
They'll have to comply with the parking requirements that the city has in place.
We have a formula.
I believe we have 18 parking spots with that premise. I may be mistaken on that, but I believe that's where we're at.
I don't know what the formula is, but you'll have to comply with it, so.
Typically, this is based off office in Austin, it's about 275 parking spots per, excuse me, 1 parking spot for every 275 square feet of a building. So we have roughly 2,000 usable conditioned spots, which is about 7.5 parking spots. And we feel that parking is key, critical for folks that are there, but at the same time, mitigating just traffic and headaches, and with the neighbors also.
So, again, they'll have to, we're in Rollingwood, not Austin, so they'll have to apply with Rollingwood's parking requirements, but they'll still have to comply, so, it's really just the use. They have to figure out whether or not they can comply with our parking requirements if the use is authorized. Even if you authorize the use, if they can't comply with the parking requirements, they don't get a C about it, so it's a separate issue.
So I don't know that we ever got a second motion.
I don't think
We don't have a motion yet.
Yeah, we do, we have a
Well, I made
motion.
a motion.
Yeah.
She made a motion.
It
I
was, okay.
You wrote it
You
down.
wrote it down.
No, I got that. I didn't realize you were
It
making
was
the full motion
an
yet.
actual
I misunderstood.
No, I thought I was
Okay.
being asked to make a motion, so
Gotcha.
I
I thought you were like, let's get the language and then we'll move it.
I have some
no worries.
questions, so if we're getting into a discussion before we vote.
All right,
My-
well,
my-
your good point, from Robert's rules standpoint, motion's on the table. Would we like to second it and then we can discuss it? Or
that's what we should do.
is there a second to it?
I'll second it.
All right, fantastic. Thank you, Tony, and thank you, Amy. Sorry, I misunderstood.
No problem.
All right, so further discussion. Right.
So I missed that this is a C1 property. All the sort of code provisions I was reading are all C2, including what we included in the packet. Right, so the prohibited and permitted uses.
Doesn't apply to this.
That's all
property.
C2. And my question was really, what's the difference between C1 and C2?
That's a good question.
Is there one? Do we have?
Are there areas zoned in the city that are C1 versus C2?
Does that map show it?
That one doesn't. We could bring up the zoning map. There is not much difference. I've never actually charted it, but really there is not that much difference. C2 is probably just a little bit higher density, but no. And it seems to be, we don't have traditional zoning where it's like a strip of C1 or like residential, then C1, then C2. It's C1 here, C2 here, government institutional here, PUD over here.
Super weird.
Yeah,
So
it's-
I'll just, to clarify what, in case, I don't know if anybody else was confused by this, but I was. So for C1, it says permitted uses are whatever you do in a residential area, including subdivision sales offices, that's one thing. 2 is administrative, professional, and business offices and services. So like accountants, lawyers, engineering, computer services, there's a whole list of things, real estate agent. Accessory structures, so those are the only 3 things that it has permitted uses. And then it has special uses is in 344, facilities for assembling of and testing electronic components, childcare facilities, banks or savings and loan associations, parking garages, or for lots with frontage on Bee Cave Road, a personal wireless telephone service facility. Surprised it doesn't.
Not dental?
That would maybe be under the professional, actually, no, it doesn't include dental.
Great.
So C2 is where we have all those ones where it's like, here's permitted uses under 402, and then 404, and 402 and 403, and then 404 says anything not specifically said in 402 is prohibited, including, for example, veterinarian services, but that's all about C2.
Right.
So I was using that as sort of a framework of thinking through things. I don't know if that mattered to anybody. I don't know why we have this mix up, and this is part of why we need to do our code reshuffle and get things more aligned. The distinction between C1 and C2, I don't know that there's meant to be one.
Yeah, and the fact that we have cumulative zoning, all the uses in residential you can do. Yeah, it just trickles down. It's not.
So was
It's
the
the best
current
way.
uses of medical and dental office then not
It
compatible
depends.
use?
It just depends on when the zoning was
Very,
adopted.
very possibly yes. It's not.
This might, he's retired, so.
1987 was when this code provision was.
So if he had
The
already
permitted
had
uses.
a business, already had his dentistry, then he would have been grandfathered in.
Or it's just Rollingwood.
Or somebody just set up shop for an orthodontist office.
I really don't
At the
wanna
time,
pull-
nobody was like,
I don't wanna pull on that thread tonight. And it's not on our agenda to go through the zoning map and figure out if everybody's got compatible use.
well, I bring this up because I was like, well, maybe we could just write out what this is. Like strike this section of 14.404,
It's not in there though.
or 4, but it's not, it wouldn't help them
You're gonna be
anyway.
adding it to what's there. We're saying this would now be an allowed use
Yeah.
to all C1.
In which case, what we really need to do is align C1 and C2, harmonize the two, I think.
That's not in our agenda.
I know, but I'm just saying that's something that needs to be thought about. So,
Yeah.
If only there were 4 city council members, I guess one of them left, so,
We also have hospital zoning, which is
different.
a weird zoning district, but yes.
I'm glad you made it
It's
tonight, Brian.
fantastic.
I'm glad you got here.
Guys, we have a motion on the table right now, which is to consider adding this to the zoning code. Brian, does this give you any pause to doing that?
well, no, actually, I think the way that the motion's structured is to recommend to city council that the city attorney
Yep.
put up appropriate code provisions that would modify this.
That would modify C1 to allow this
C1.
use as a permitted use. Yeah,
Yeah, so
correct.
that would apply to what I think would be 1402, 343.
Okay, so you're good.
I'm all in favor.
Okay. Are there any further discussion on the motion that's on the table? Which, to repeat, is to, well, he just said it. You all go with it? Instruct the city attorney to draft language for C1 zoning that would allow for small animal veterinary services and disallow overnight kenneling and daycare services in, you said in C1 exempt district last. Sound good? All right, all in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed, nay? All right, motion carries unanimously. Very good. Thank you guys for coming here, being here tonight, presenting, and Pikachu looks forward to becoming
We look forward to it.
Thank you.
I'm most fascinated with the fact that you guys do acupuncture for dogs. That sort of blew my mind. So
We're going integrative all the way.
very good.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
All right, that takes care of 6. We'll look at our regular agenda items. Discussion about member terms of service and availability for 2020. Guys, we are coming up on end of the year. If you recall, at our last meeting, we approved a new calendar, which is, I didn't write it down, February to June? February to May? February, March, April, May. No June, July, or August, and then come back September, October, November, December. So it's 8 months next year. I'm trying to sell you on volunteering to continue serving on the committee. So we got a new calendar. I wanted to get to the mayor a little bit earlier this year than we did last year. Who's interested in continuing their service on planning and zoning? Who's not? We've lost one, so we have one open seat right now. So we have to recruit at least one. So if you are interested in continuing, please let myself or Amber know, and we will recommend you to the mayor. If you are not interested and you're done with service, thank you very much for it, but we'll also let him know so that we know how much it's the mayor who is technically responsible for recruiting, correct?
Yeah, kind of.
Kind of. We can also recruit, but I would just love to get that kind of to him here, October, November timeframe, so we can start making the ask before February. February is when we would try and fill any empty seats. All right. So those interested, please let us know. We'll pass that on, and then we will start. We'll let everybody kind of know at the next meeting, and we'd love to get some new people on the commission and have a full commission, because we are gonna, if we do go into a comprehensive plan, it's gonna be nice to have a full commission of people who are actively involved. All right. That's 7. Any other questions on that, or any concerns? Any additions? All right, hearing none, we'll talk about any items. This is kind of our standard, guys. Anything you want to put on here, let myself, let Amber know, and we'll make sure to get it into the agendas. At this point, we're kind of coasting into the end of the year, handling items that the council's pushing our way, doing a little bit of cleanup of code. The idea next year is to take a look at 14 and get pretty involved and on our own start looking up code that we think needs updating.
Did we ever do anything? Remember we talked about hours of construction, and all learned that Saturdays are permitted for certain items, yet our signs pretty clearly indicate that anything is prohibited on the weekend, which I don't think is accurate.
Curious,
Discuss it, just put it on.
Yeah, we can put it on the agenda for next
Okay.
item. Sorry we missed that. You did send something on it.
we can put it on a future agenda.
We
can't
talked
discuss
about
it today.
talking about the tree ordinance as a
Okay.
agenda item.
Okay. Okay.
We haven't resolved.
That is now under
accessory
14.
building.
We have not.
No.
Was
That's an active item that if the subcommittee wishes to go forward, I would encourage, we'll probably end all active subcommittees by the end of the year, so we start the year fresh. So if there is interest in that, y'all get together and come on and discuss it. Just let me know and we'll put it on the agenda. I've been putting it on as a placeholder, but I feel like that's kind of calling out. I'm gonna go the other way. If you guys want it on,
Yeah.
we'll put it on. If we don't, we won't. That's for the
What was it?
multiple.
That's for the how many buildings you can
Accessory
have and all
buildings.
that
Oh.
stuff.
So,
Gotta open that one back up.
Brian,
We
you
had
want-
already opened it
Brian,
back
you
up,
want
we
tree
just-
ordinance on for the next meeting?
I mean, I haven't really looked at it. I
Okay.
just remember it was like a rapid fire thing. We like moved it to
We
14.
literally moved it and we recommended that they not add anything. They didn't add the extra items.
What was the extra item?
It was having a tree survey by an arborist, I guess, and a plan, and that's probably something worth discussion, but then the issue was it might add cost, so we kind of just said, look, we're just moving it from this section to this section to codify it correctly.
Yeah.
So let's not add, and why we're doing that, make any changes, because that opened up Pandora's box. That was our agreement. We codified it. It's now in 14. We can notice it and do this. Tony, we will bring up the making sure that construction rules and signage are the same. Or that the signage conveys the rules, although that doesn't seem to be a theme in Rollingwood. So,
I still think it deserves a little bit of additional modification and that it can allow.
we recommended it, right? To
Work.
extend hours?
Did I?
No, we
No,
did it
I don't know, you were gonna make.
until we went for a full shift on
You
Saturdays.
guys are killing me. You know, none of this is on the agenda.
Alright, not on the
Oh.
agenda, sorry. Well,
Well,
Talking
it
about
is,
items
it's
for the next-
discussion.
Talking about items to add to the
Yeah.
agenda.
How do we as a group get the opportunity to talk about what we wanna talk about officially with 30 days notice?
Yeah.
Because we're not allowed to meet with a quorum outside of this
Yeah, no,
either.
right, I
What,
get
what
that,
we could
but
do
I
is
didn't
if
make the
you,
Texas Open Meetings Act, I just tell you all what it said.
if you could
Well,
send
this is
me,
an open meeting right now.
well, we've been doing a,
Hold on, the Texas Open Meetings Act says that if you're gonna have a discussion about an item, it has to be properly posted to give notice that a discussion.
And we're talking about what items we should put for the,
And once you start getting into the discussions, you can
Just mention the items,
just
but
say,
don't
I would like
discuss
to
it.
have a discussion about this at
oh,
the
I
next
thought,
agenda.
yeah, I guess you're
And
saying
you're-
we're going too far.
You're going too far in your discussions about.
so we got
I
one
just
for
said I wanna
construction
talk about it.
signage and hours, we'll notify on that. Do
And
you wanna
activity.
talk tree ordinance next, before the end of the year? You wanna think about it a bit?
Yeah, I think we should talk about it,
Okay.
but only if other people are thinking
Anybody
there's.
can bring it up.
I don't
and
remember
talk
the
about it.
issue, and we can't talk about that, so yeah, let's put it on another
Put
one,
it
we
on.
can talk
Tree
about what the
ordinance
issue
is
is,
on.
and
Good, this is good. The last bit,
I mean, I think, maybe not necessarily next meeting, maybe we may overload it, but I think we should at some point pick back up discussion about the structure, multiple structures, accessory
Well, I
buildings,
think
whatever
we
we're
can
calling
still
it.
have our
the
little
subcommittee is in
Okay.
existence,
That's
the
in-
subcommittee
okay.
meet, and just let us know, and we'll get it on and get
So
it
we
noticed.
have subcommittees?
For that one
Okay,
issue
so-
we created.
So we're gonna have to comply with the Texas Open Meeting Act with subcommittees now because.
it's a work group.
Right,
work.
but the Texas legislature just changed the law.
September 1.
Subcommittees now have to do all the notice and requirements for the Texas Open Meetings Act.
Okay.
We just canceled our subcommittee, guys.
No more.
As of now.
All right, so
It's an agenda
if the
item.
work group gets together, you gotta tell Amber, it's
Okay.
gotta be noticed,
Okay.
all right? Location, time, all right? Thank you for letting us know
I
that.
think it needs to be someplace public too, so location time can't be like Tony's.
We met here before.
Can't get Joe's.
Then maybe we should just talk about it at a meeting.
Joe's coffee shop could, yeah.
Yeah, in the bar.
What does,
Um,
as part of that, are we gonna discuss attached and detached, or have we wrestled with that enough?
I'd like to tender my resignation.
think that's done.
Moving
This
back
is
to
an
the
offshoot
previous
of
topic.
This is an offshoot of that, this is to eliminate the need for all that discussion we had.
Forever to talk about that again.
I'm sure it will come back. I'm confident that it will never get away from that. All right. Last bit, just as a matter of understanding that I didn't understand, this is great. Down here at the bottom of your packets, first off, you will be getting a link from now on, not 12 individually, some PDF, some Word, something that you can't open. You will get a link. That link will have the packet. You click on the link, it has the entire packet right there. You can scroll through it. The part that I got confused about, that's awesome. It gives you the item number and the page number are two different things. Page number is on the bottom left, item number is on the bottom right. So it's page 4, item 2, page 5, item 2. So that's one way to reference it. I got a little confused and we went.
That's
back.
why I couldn't find that
Yeah.
thing before you said page 10, and now I
It's
see it.
really, yeah, it's confusing. So it's the bottom left is the page number, and it's super helpful to be able to keep all your stuff together.
And
All
if
right.
you open the bookmark, it has a thing that says top that always shoots you back to the top.
Yeah, I gotta say, it's pretty sweet.
Yeah,
Nicely done.
very glad.
Big
And this
fan.
thing, we always had this touchscreen, that was pretty
Good
impressive
work.
too.
That's ours?
Yeah.
The Rollingwood? Let's go play with that. That looks cool. It's a touchscreen?
Yeah, you can, you know.
I want a
make things
minority
bigger and
report
smaller.
that thing, you know?
Yeah.
Pretty awesome.
Throw
It
some
was a
stuff
gift
up.
from the women's club.
That's pretty awesome.
All
Thank,
right.
thank you, Rollingwood
Anything
Women's.
else for planning between now and the end of the year?
From the women's club, this was bought after y'all had how many bottles of wine at that point?
It took a little persuasion.
Well, pretty sweet.
If we're doing first Wednesday in November, I will not be here.
Okay. We are doing the first Wednesday in November.
Okay, fair warning, I will be on the other side of the world at that point.
That sounds nice.
I hope.
Now, can we just call you on this thing and have you attend through the
Oh
giant
yeah, we'll
screen?
wheel you in with the faceplate and everything.
Can I have pyramids behind
The
me?
time might not work out.
you going to
Yeah,
Egypt?
Sleep and.
It would be about 9 or 10 hours later, so I might be
That's
just
like
getting
breakfast.
up. Yeah,
Breakfast at the pyramids.
I don't get up at 5 a.m.
Gotcha.
I don't
All
do
right.
that for anybody.
Well, we appreciate you letting us
Except an
know.
airplane.
This does make it for the rest of us. If we know we're already missing one, we do need to know if you're not going to be able to make it because we are a member short. Dr. Horn is no longer serving on the commission. So,
I should be here.
okay. Very good, guys. All in favor of adjourning the meeting, signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? All right, we're adjourned. Thank you, guys. And we adjourned at 8:25. 25 minutes over our allotted time, Alex. We'll do better. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Well played.
I appreciate y'all on the code versus special permit. I was kind of going one way, and glad we
On the fence
sorted
about it?
out. Yeah, I didn't really care. I was just like, there's just something in my mind, and I admit it's
Throw
a
out
me
the
thing where I'm like.